Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of all ages, welcome to Random Conflux.
Yes.
Only found on YouTube?
As of right now.
Yes. Is there any plans on us moving to any other streaming thing as of now?
I don't think so.
I don't think I like X.
Alright. Anyways,
Like, Twitter's probably bad. Not really sure what other streaming services we should be on. Maybe www.shop.com.
you just wish it was on her.
Oh yeah, totally. But let's talk about some real stuff instead of fictional stuff. I'm just getting distracted.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm Zach.
I'm John.
This is Random Conflux, and today I kind of want to talk about how important it is to get checked early rather than later when it comes down to mental health, as any sort of mental disorder,
Yes.
depression, or behavioral disorders.
Yes. And as someone who suffers from some mental things yourself.
I have like a combination of both. I have depression, I have an anger problem. Like, I'm right in that category.
Yes.
And I can talk about like how hard it is to be diagnosed with IED at the age of 19,
Yes.
not really knowing like what it really is, and, you know, and having to look up things myself, and then like just growing up with that feeling, like anytime I got angry or upset or something happened where maybe I should have been sad when I wasn't, or whenever I was angry, like I felt stronger, like I could do things that I probably shouldn't have been able to do at that point in time without being angry.
Yeah.
So they're like, when you're growing up and you like,
You've had to learn how
when you feel like, okay, well, having the type of strength I do when I'm angry, I kind of like it. It makes me feel stronger than everybody else. And, you know, as a child, realizing, oh, this strength is coming from my anger, you start kind of attaching yourself to that.
Yeah.
So as you're getting older and you don't realize why, like, you're easier to tick off, or it's easier for you to go from a neutral position of mood to like absolute watch the world burn and laugh as it happens type of anger. And that was me.
Yeah, you've had to learn over the years how to cope with things other than like just getting ticked off at it.
Yeah, and it was harder for me even after being diagnosed later with IED. To me, being angry allowed me to lift things that I normally wouldn't have been able to lift. But at the time, there wasn't like a on and off switch for it.
Yeah.
It was like the button. It's like okay, everybody knows about like remote bombs and stuff like that. And when people talk about IED, that's usually where people go to when you use those three letters.
Yeah.
But when you're using those three letters to describe a temperament disorder, you literally have to look at the other side of what those three letters could mean.
Yeah.
Because that disorder is it matches so well to what the device is. For those that may not know, IED is intermittent explosive disorder.
Yes.
But as an object, it's improvised explosive device. Okay? Well, how do you say that a disorder can be viewed in the same process as like an explosive bomb? Well, that's because of how IED works.
Yes.
Bipolar is very similar and miscommon. It's actually a misdiagnosis of IED. Very commonly misdiagnosed as IED, or IED can be misdiagnosed as bipolar. But one of the difference is like triggers. IED, you have triggers. Pills can help like mellow you out, but you have to learn those triggers, because avoiding those triggers are what's gonna help you like from losing yourself in that explosion of anger and rage and hatred.
Yeah.
And that's why I kind of view IED, the disorder, very similar to that of an IED device, is because the moment that the trigger is switched, the moment that you hit that trigger, that it's one and done.
Yeah.
And that's the whole purpose of an IED device. Is an improvised device that's explosive and very fatal.
Yeah.
The disorder is like, oh, here's the trigger, and I'm just gonna say a random trigger, not my own triggers, but it could be random for anybody. I don't like the color of that shirt, so I'm gonna get mad.
And that's not something that sets you off.
And it's not like what you said. It's not in that sense. It's like you're not telling yourself that that's what's setting you off. It's more like that color is doing something to my brain chemically. So therefore that color is setting me off. It's like how bulls don't like the color red. Because it's a color that reflects, and it's weird how the color red works on bulls. it it's an aggravation to their visual sensory cortex. So it doesn't really trigger rage, it triggers pain, which then the bull releases as rage. That's why bulls will attack most people that wear red. It's one of the reasons why most bullfighters don't wear red. They wear any other color other than red, but yet their capes are red. And once they can show their cape to a bull, it aggravates them and they go into a rage. Well, that's a trigger for a bull. And since every human is not the same, even between me and JJ, if JJ would be diagnosed with IED like I am, he would have different triggers than I do. And IED is something that you can actually get later in life or by a traumatic experience. Bipolar is a form that you're born with, that nothing really happened to you to make you that way. It's just you're born chemically imbalanced. Where people with IED, it usually spawns from instantaneous, like a spontaneous, quick, it's kind of hard for me to explain. Maybe once I do explain, maybe JJ can break it down a little bit. But what it can come from is something so sudden and so traumatic that it physically alters the chemical imbalance in your brain. It's due to, in military terms, it can drive from shell shock. You can get it from just being like seconds away from being dead, or the possibility of, that happening.
Yeah.
Or being in a situation where you were forced to make a choice that you really don't feel comfortable making. That's another way soldiers get IED. And I'm not putting myself in that line, nor should I feel like I belong in the same category as any soldier that's given their life or whatever to their country, because I haven't done that. It's just as an example of like how I myself can translate how someone can get IED. For me, it was a sudden tragic experience of being in preschool and being woken up by my mom and my aunt and being told that we have to go to the hospital before my tiny little 5-year-old brain can process what's going on. and really not knowing the situation and kind of, you know, it's not processing because, one, I'm still like half asleep. Two, I'm not really given any real context other than, you know, something bad happened. We gotta go see your dad at the hospital. And then not being able to see my dad sets a bit of frustration because, okay, something bad's happening to my dad, well, why can't I see my dad? And then not being able to see him and having people tell you, well, he's dead. He's in a better place. You know how they try to do with kids and it actually never fucking works.
Yeah.
Dude, if your family is dead or someone that you care about is dead, it doesn't really matter what that person wants. What it is for yourself to be able to experience what's going on and being able to comprehend it and bring everything in and accept it.
Yeah. Exactly. And I know I'm being a little quiet here, but it's because this is a lot of it's your show, like it's like what you went to with mental illness and things like that.
Yeah. And just by me understanding like myself now and having like the proper doctors and being able to like go back in my own mind and be like, okay, 2 + 2 is adding fish right now. And really like find the missing connections.
Yeah.
And like being able to like talk to my doctors and be like, well, is this what created this that also creates this? And the more that I go into it, the more I understand it.
Yeah.
But you don't really understand diagnosis like that really quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, you can say, yeah, you understand, or yeah, you kind of get it. But especially as an adult, you want to believe that you get it because you just want it to be over. You're like, okay, give me the pills I need, and I'll just push this out of my mind. And it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
It takes a long time to really understand like what's going on, and like depression itself, it's not gonna go away with just a pill or like being fine the next day. It's something that's gonna be always there. But the more you understand it and the more that you go about it, the more you try to accept whatever it is. If it's IED, bipolar, whatever. Even skits, if there's a part of your brain that works enough to try to comprehend it and you're trying to learn more about the diagnosis, then like it gets easier to handle over time. But it's more important to be diagnosed with depression or a behavior disorder at a younger age. And
you can get help a lot easier as you're younger.
yeah, plus that gives you more time before you're an adult to make those mistakes. To realize, okay, well, this is why I'm like this, and I don't like that. I shouldn't be feeling good while in this state of mind. It's a whole different experience from learning about a mental disorder as an adult, because you're like, okay, whatever. Shit happens. I'll just take the pills and get over it. Rather than a kid that is constantly learning new things all the time. It's like, oh, okay, well, my parents can kind of help me through this. And they, like, you have more time to get adjusted to it.
Yeah.
And there's more programs out there for kids that are dealing with depression and anxiety and behavioral disorders. And how important it is to understand if your kid is just being rowdy because they're just not a nice kid, or if they're actually a real, like, their attitude is normally nice, but all of a sudden they can switch like that. Which me and JJ both know a child that suffers with that situation, and he's trying to get help. And right now, he's what, in his teens?
Almost.
Early teens?
Almost, yeah. And it's a struggle sometimes with them.
Yeah, because at any point, you don't know how well is this medication working, and how well does this child know what's going on with their body. And how much does the parents know? And it kind of sucks because as a child, if like when you feel angry and you like, it's like two different versions of you, but yet you're still feeling like, okay, another way to explain it is different gases give off different aromas, right?
Yeah.
Petrol doesn't smell like diesel. So let's kind of put that into a box of analogies and say the chemical imbalance. Let's say that I'm a diesel truck, big rig, that kind of thing, and you're trying to, or let's go into a different direction and say that I'm a Ford F-150 that's supposed to take ethanol rather than diesel. But you make a mistake and you accidentally put some diesel in the tank. Oh, I'm gonna run very mad. But because that's going through my body, my engine, my brain, it's a substance that's like, it's burning hot. So yeah, it's making me feel better. It's working its course.
Yeah.
But if you're constantly making that mistake, the more the engine starts to deteriorate, and the more it starts breaking down.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, diesel is making the truck run at its peak performance, blowing those gaskets as strong as possible, making that engine rev up as like peak performance as possible. But there's also a give, because that engine wasn't made to accept that much heat and that much wear and tear, as if you put diesel in a Mack truck or a big rig. But yet, you can also say the same thing for a big rig. Well, I'm going to use some ethanol because it's cheaper. Or a synthetic gas because it's cheaper. That big rig's not going to have enough heat or enough combustion to be able to perform at its highest potential.
Yep.
So the different motors are created to take different types of gas to withstand different types of heat. And a human brain, compared to an animal brain or a primitive brain, can be viewed the same way. Let's say humans first seeing their cousins, the almighty gorilla. A gorilla's brain works on basic instinct. You try to hurt me, I'm going to push myself as mad as I can get to survive. That is natural for a monkey or a gorilla, because that is life for them. Humans live in a societal situation where things aren't actually pretty much handed to you. Like, you have to work for it. You have to earn the money to buy things and to get things. But we also live in a society where it should be peaceful. Like, your next door neighbor is not going to come over with a fork and a spoon and try to eat you while you're alive. Well, let's just hope not. Because in our understanding, that's cannibalism. But the same's not going to happen to your dog or a cat. Like, a human being in the right state of mind is not going to go over, steal your cat, and eat it raw.
I hope not.
Like, sitting on your floor, like, no boundaries whatsoever, and just happen to gnaw on your cat on the floor. Or on your dog or whatever. Well, a gorilla would. But that's because, hey, I'm a gorilla. I have basic instincts. I have to eat. I have to sleep. I have to survive. And in a jungle, like, that is a proper mindset. But in a society that has rules and regulations and, like, you don't need that type of protection that chemical produces that gives you that strength. And, like, over time, it does more harm than good.
Yeah.
It can, because it is literally pushing your body to the limit as a survival instinct, which should be a primitive survival instinct. Like, about 87.4% of the human population thinks, okay, laws are put in place to ensure my safety. I have to trust that these laws will make everything okay. I don't have to use fight or flight. I don't have to put myself in a primitive mind state, so our bodies are more adapted to not experience that chemical imbalance. Because our bodies are made to take in very slight adrenaline. And not to the point where it over imbalances our physical body structure. And when that happens, when our bodies get too much adrenaline, our bodies immediately pass out. Like, we're wired, but the moment we lose that, it's night-night time. That's why our bodies don't naturally produce that much adrenaline. And it's another chemical, I forget what it is. But it combines adrenaline to create the fight or flight. But people with IED, bipolar, schizophrenia, other mental behavioral disorders, their bodies aren't they build too much of those chemicals that, yes, it's good for our bodies, but as of right now, the way that humans have evolved, it's too much for our bodies to handle.
Yeah.
And over time, overuse of those stimulants can actually break down our body structure, our muscles, our ligaments, our bones, our own internal body chemistry, even our brain. can be could be deteriorated because of overproduction of adrenaline and another chemical that, again, I forget what it's called, but it's also something that's natural too.
Yeah.
So when, as a child being diagnosed with a depression disorder or like a mental behavioral disorder like bipolar or IED, 9 times out of 10, as an adult trying to help the child understand that, hopefully you're in the right state of mind yourself and can understand, well, okay, these chemicals are normal, but it's not normal for you to feel like you need to accept these chemicals every time something happens.
Yeah.
You, as an adult, could help reassure the child that, okay, these chemicals are happening because this trigger happened, or my body's just producing these random adrenaline proteins and I don't need them right now, so I need a little bit more of a dose of my adrenaline blockers. Am I explaining this okay?
Sounds about right. And we're not experts, but you do suffer from yourself. Where you're speaking from experience.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to be as informative as possible with it. And as an adult, you've already, like, when you're diagnosed as an adult, but those signs are there as a child, but nobody's doing anything to really either correct the behavior or find out why that behavior is happening. And then, like, once you realize as an adult, like, hey, this is not normal, it's so much harder to get the help or, like, be able to get that chemical imbalance in check.
Yeah.
Because you're already used to it. So therefore, your body's kind of like, okay, I need it. It's almost like a drug at that point. And it's not really a drug. It's just your body goes back to that primitive, like, okay, we evolved from being primitive apes to being societal, did I say that word right?
Yeah.
Like, being societal, like being social, you know, knowing like this person's not going to hurt me because there's laws put in place for it. My neighbor's not going to eat my cat because there's laws from that neighbor being able to enter my house without my permission. I would be able to call the cops before that neighbor ever had a chance to hurt my animal or whatever. So you know that there's safety measures put in place. But when you're born with those extra chemicals, and there's no help as a child to learn, oh, okay, these chemicals are bad. And after so long of like that, that going undiagnosed, the harder it is to revert back to that societal portion of your brain rather than the primitive portion of the brain.
Yeah.
Because the primitive portion of the brain wants that chemical. And that's the part of your brain that you're feeding when you're accepting your hatred, when you're accepting your anger, and you're letting it take you over. Mm-hmm. Because your body's so used to that chemical. And it's so much harder to break away from it. It's also very similar to being addicted to a drug. In a sense, is a natural drug that your body produces every day at like 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year for the rest of your life. But in small dosages. Like, that's what helps you stay awake when you're trying to live your life on a daily basis. But your body also knows how to shut it off to help you fall asleep. Because that's your body winding you down, like saying, okay, it's rest time. I can start like holding back on producing this chemical. So your body should be used to like, okay, this level of this adrenaline is normal for me because this is my everyday.
Yeah.
And in a normal everyday, I wake up at 8 o'clock at night and fall asleep at 10 o'clock. Or wake up at 8 o'clock in the morning and fall asleep at like 10 or 11 at night. That's probably like a normal routine, right?
Yeah.
But people that produce too much adrenaline may not feel tired at a normal time.
I know you have that problem sometimes yourself.
And that's one big sign is like, yeah, children have a lot more energy, but that energy's gonna wear off.
Yeah.
So at some point that child is going to end up losing that normal energy.
Yeah.
And once you get the child in a habit that like, okay, well, here's bedtime, so go run around the block a couple times or go run in the yard until you feel tired. Or you stop giving them things that feed into producing more adrenaline, like caffeine. That's one way of doing it. And for a normal child, like, they'll start winding down and realize, okay, well, it's sleeping time, right?
Usually, yeah. Unless you're me. Or you as a kid.
And that's already like a thing for babies, toddlers, clear up to like different ages. You start seeing those patterns. Like, okay, well, this 3-year-old is sleeping. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. the kid probably woke up at 7:30, maybe earlier than that, wanting food, naturally, and ran around, did their usual, toddler stuff, and at that point has burnt through their given adrenaline for that moment, because as a young child your body's producing small portions of those normal chemicals. Older you get, the more that the adrenaline and other natural chemicals are being produced to allow you to stay up later. And
Hello?
But there's also signs, like, as a child,
Yeah.
where your child never feels tired, even when they should be taking a kitty nap.
Yeah.
Which is normal for every child. And it seems like they have too much energy to burn off.
Yeah.
And they just can't quite get that energy to escape. That could be one sign of having either a behavioral disorder or something like ADD or ADHD.
Yeah, I know I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was younger.
Or there's too much, especially if they tend to be overly grumpy a lot of the time and not really having a reason for that grumpiness. Or they seem more irritated than, like, okay, you go over to your neighbor's house, they have a toddler same age as your own, and their toddler's nice, pleasant, peaceful, happy, running around, enjoying themselves, and your little dude or dudette is like sitting in a corner, like, you can't see my facial features, but them being like, oh, I'm grumpy. I don't like this toast. I don't like that bright light. That bug is annoying me. It's like they're unusually grumpy, but it's not because they're in a bad mood for, say, all the time. There could be something wrong. And I think the point of this, and I know it's a lot of me talking, but
it is basically you, but you're also talking from experience with yourself.
Yeah, but like, I'm going to end up pushing this over to you anyways at some point, just because I'm starting to get hoarse in the throat.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where, okay, your kid seems a little too rambunctious and can't seem to sit down long enough to get a little bit of shut-eye. Like, when you know that, let's say your neighbor's child has a routine, they get up at 7 in the morning, eat their breakfast, run around the yard, it's afternoon, they get tired, they come in, they flop on the floor, and they fall asleep. Or they flop on the couch, watch a TV show, and they fall asleep. And then they'll wake up again, like, maybe an hour later, or 2 hours later, and be hungry again, and run around the house about another, like, 2.5, 3 hours. And that's their normal routine, and that's it for bed. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, that's a set routine. That's normal for a child. Because a child will eat, burn off energy, sleep, wake back up, eat, burn off energy, sleep.
Yeah.
That is normal behavior. Because that's how the chemical compound in our bodies are supposed to work. And as ADHD, well, being diagnosed with ADHD, I also can say, like, being hyper isn't relatively normal, because you should be, like, your body should be losing more adrenaline than it makes.
Yeah. But with ADD or ADHD, you're a lot more hyper, have trouble focusing because you're hyper, or your brain's just not in it.
Because it's trying to find that chemical balance.
Yeah.
ADHD is more adrenaline based, where I think ADD is the opposite. It's lacking that chemical balance to help you motivate you. And that's things that you would normally be able, as a parent, to tell as a child, like, hey, I wasn't that freaking hyper when I was this kid's age.
Yeah.
Or, like, I wasn't that aggressive at this age. As an adult, you should be able to take a step back and be like, okay, there's something not right. I need to go see what this is sooner than later. Because if this is a thing that we can work on, we can help, we can get this under control, it'll help them later in life.
Yeah.
But without doing that, it's actually harder once they're out on their own.
Yeah.
And with me being diagnosed as an adult with depression problems, it's hard, or with IED and depression and whatever, mostly as an adult rather than being diagnosed later, it's harder for me to tell myself, wait, no, I shouldn't be getting mad at this.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a trigger, but I should not be getting mad at this. Or, hey, I should not be feeling irritated. Or, I shouldn't rely on my anger so much to make me feel stronger.
Yeah.
Because by that time, your body's already accepted that fact. For you, that's normal.
And that's been a constant thing for you.
Yeah. Like, normally, I probably wouldn't have the strength to rip a door off its hinges. But tapping just a tiny bit into that anger. And
the adrenaline, and increases your strength and stuff.
And it's just that. It's like, okay, this door is in my way. Or, fuck it, I can't get all the screws out of this door. And I've did this many times in front of my brother. Where I either ended up stripping the screw and had to find another way to yank off a door. Or I just got mad because something wasn't working right, and I just give the door a few tugs while I'm angry, and off goes the door. A good example of that, and being used in a proper sense, not just ripping off a door, is, being able to lift a small car. Like, here's an example, and I don't know if my brother's ever heard of this himself or read about it on Reddit or whatever. But there's a story about a woman that, well, it was actually about a child that got hit by a car. And out of fear and determination to protect her child or to save her child's life and get the car off the child, because the child was literally, the tire was on top of the child, and the person driving was panicking. They didn't want to move the car. They didn't want to do any more possible internal damage to the child as possible. But because the mother of the child was freaking out so bad that the adrenaline was being produced quicker and more often than normal, and it was going into every part of her body, her muscles were getting a boost from that adrenaline rush to be able to pick up this small, I believe it was a Pontiac Sunfire. Not really a truly heavy car, but on a child's body, it most definitely was.
Yeah.
And as a normal woman, she should not have had enough strength to grab the bumper of this car and pick up the front end off of her child.
Yeah.
And have someone else kind of pull the child away from underneath the tire. Even if it's a centimeter away from the tire, that was just enough to protect that child from any more harm being done.
Yes.
But once the mother realized, okay, my child's okay, my child's alright, my child's no longer in danger, that adrenaline pulls back down.
Yeah.
But because of how high that adrenaline went, it broke the normal bounds of what your body is adapted to. Mm-hmm. And before you know it, you get what's called an adrenaline crash.
Yeah.
And that's normal. That's when you realize, okay, I've went above and beyond my adrenaline limits. And you're going to feel sore and fatigued afterwards because you've pushed your muscles past those limits.
Yeah.
That's normal. You're definitely going to feel that the next day. But yet your brain's also going to tell you, hey, I didn't like that feeling. I don't want to ever have that happen again. That's, that ache in your muscles is your brain saying, hey, you overdid it.
Yeah.
No more of that shit. I don't like that feeling. And usually pain is a way for our body to tell us, hey, stop doing that. As a normal, a normal sensation to not do something.
Yes.
But people with IUD, bipolar, or whatever, their brain doesn't comprehend that. It's like, ooh, strong, muscle, tough, yank door off of doorway thing. That's just an analogy, but it's like, okay, well, I can produce so much strength that it's easy for me to rip a door off just because I'm angry. I find that cool. Now, a normal person would be like, dude, you're a freak. You're maybe 145, scrawny as hell, and you just ripped that door off like it was nothing. And you're happy with that. You should not be happy with that. Like, that is not okay. People your size don't do that. You are legitimately a freak. Well, that is a normal response seeing someone my size be able to rip a door off its hinges. I mean, wouldn't you say, like, wouldn't you agree with that?
I can see that.
But yet, someone bigger than me doing that would probably be within the normal range. Like, maybe this guy is about 250. And he's got definitely more muscle mass than I do. And this person gives 1, 2, 3 big tugs, and the door's off its hinges. Well, most doors are supposed to be able to withstand enough force to where you're going to have to kick that thing pretty damn hard in order to make it budge. Like, it shouldn't be that easy.
Yeah.
But when you look at it, it's like, okay, well, everybody's telling me that's not normal. Then how do I become normal?
Exactly.
Because I'm so used to my body being able to do this. Like, my body being able to do things that others can't do. And it's like, if I would have had people back then, like, not really encouraging me or even putting me down, but being like, sitting down with me and being like, hey, you know, you shouldn't be able to pick up a close to 300-pound kid while you're like 47 pounds yourself. Like, that is like triple your own weight.
Yeah.
And the way strength works, it's mostly your weight, maybe double, depending on like how much muscle buildup you actually have, and how much you train your muscles to work in that way.
That's also the way IED works, right?
IED, it just forces those chemicals into your body. And your body just accepts it.
Yeah.
And there's no rhyme or reason why you should have that crazy amount of strength. But as a child, when people are saying, "Oh, that's really cool," you know, you're accepting, like, okay, well, this is actually something I can do that no one else can do. Because of how my body works. I just have to tap into that anger. And that's not always the right mindset. Because, yes, your body produces those chemicals in that way, but naturally, it should have a shut-off. and IED doesn't work that way. ADD, ADHD doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
Bipolar doesn't work that way. Schizophrenia doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
And even depression as a child, you have the ability to go to your mom or your dad or any sort of adult that has enough time to like sit down and listen, because that's what you know. You know, hey, my school teacher gets paid to sit down and make sure that I understand this assignment. So if I'm having a problem that's stopping me from understanding this assignment, I can sit down with my teacher and be like, okay, I don't feel like I'm understanding this because it's not grabbing my attention.
Mm-hmm. And the teacher's usually more than willing to help you out, unless they're...
Or you may not even know why you don't understand it at all. I'm just saying off the top of my head. I mean, you may not, as a normal child, you may not really understand this whole conversation. But that's the whole point why we say if kids do watch this channel, please watch it with an adult.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's really cool to have like the gameplay in the background, but when we do these topics, it's a more serious and more informative situation.
Yes.
But as an adult, we stop realizing that there's people out there that can help us, and that it's okay to be
ask for help.
Yeah. But as an adult, you stop, especially depending on how you grow up. You stop realizing that there's people out there that can be helpful, especially if no one really sat down with you and really talked to you about certain things. You don't realize that there's help out there. So you just get so used to what's going on that you try to avoid the situation in itself. But it just gets harder and harder to the point where you're either going to find yourself in jail, like I did, or you're going to end up isekaiing yourself. Or getting yourself isekai'd. And for those that don't understand what that means, watch anime. I mean, YouTube's not going to be very happy with me saying the K word or S word. But with that being said, I'm going to let JJ say whatever he feels like saying, if he's got anything to add to the topic. So, is there anything else that you want to put in yourself with your own experience?
No, literally, you cover almost everything. It's when it comes to depression, IED, ADD, being able to focus. Early diagnosis is the key. I mean, yeah, sometimes you can't get that, but just don't be afraid to ask for help or get the help you need with that. That's all there is to it. I mean, am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
basically just adding on to what I've already said.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
thought maybe you would have said a little bit of your own experience.
From my own experience, I would have said the same exact things you are, so there's no point repeating it.
Or like how you agree with like it being harder for adults to get the help that they need rather than like the kids getting the help that they need.
Oh, in a lot of cases, yeah. 'Cause when you're a kid, a lot of times, like, other people will notice it more than you would.
Well, also having two stepbrothers that you lived with that also had problems as well.
Yeah.
And, you know, being around that, I thought maybe you might want to mention that as well.
Oh, yeah, one of them fought with depression, and it was a constant struggle. The other one they both had their issues growing up, but like I said, it's like, just get the help you need early, otherwise things could be worse, you know what I mean?
And to me, like, I feel like if I knew that, like, how my anger works and how, like, what it does with my strength, and, like, knowing, you know, what I'm feeling and what I'm going through right now, pain-wise, I would have probably wanted to know more when I was little rather than just blaming it on migraines.
Exactly.
Because that's what my temper was like. My behavior was always like blamed on migraines. Here's some Motrin, here's some Tylenol.
And it wasn't that, it was...
Here's a dark room. And yeah, it kind of helped. But what was causing the headaches? My anger.
Exactly.
The amount of adrenaline that my body was producing on its own.
Exactly. With me being I had ADHD when I was younger. I still have to a point, though I think it's more ADD than the other, but it's just like, there's ways to help you focus, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And, like you, as a child, your parents should be there if you feel like something's not right. You should always be able to go up to your parents and be like, hey, this doesn't seem normal.
Yeah.
I feel this way, but my friend feels this way. Is my friend normal, or am I not normal? Or is my friend not normal? Like, just bring up the conversation.
Exactly.
As a child, like, or even as an adult, you should know how your body feels. And if you look around you and you realize, wait, this doesn't make sense. Like, I shouldn't be able to do this. Or, well, wait, no one else is doing this. How do I get help for this?
Yeah. Exactly.
Or, here's the thing with skits. Like, skits, I wouldn't call it an extremer version of Tourette syndrome.
Because you don't know what's going on sometimes.
But because in a way, it's actually more of a seizure than anything else. And that's how I understood that when kind of researching this topic. Is, you know how schizophrenics think that they're hearing something, or they can't analyze their own internal thoughts as like, Okay, those are my thoughts. I'm not being told to do this. It's just my brain playing tricks on me.
Yeah.
But it's also more like a seizure in a sense rather than like a real behavior disorder. And I'm not saying it's not like a disorder or a behavior disorder.
You can see the parallels between the two.
Yeah. Where, like, they're not in control of what's going on at all. Rather than someone that is in their right mind or someone that, let's say, has Tourette's and they have that focal tic. Where this other person is saying "fuck you, die," I'm going to strangle you. Like, that's not verbal tics, but they're not in control of what they're doing. It's a I forget how to break it down and really explain it. But the closest thing is a full-blown like body animated seizure. It's random concepts of your brain misfiring. And you think that it's someone else taking control of your body and that you no longer have control. That's more in the skits direction. But with IED, you have control to an extent. It's just that you like the feeling of it. Like, there's not really a seizure going on. Like, your brain's not misfiring. It's producing the chemicals. It's accepting the chemicals. You're just liking the way it's making you feel. And that's a bad feeling.
Yes.
It's like how people end up taking drugs even though they know it can cause them to overdose. It's like, yes, I know that this is bad, but I enjoy what this chemical is doing to me.
It's a constant struggle with that because of that reason.
Yeah. And that's also another thing with bipolar, having the same situation, same problem. And with bipolar, it's every day, all the time. You don't know what's going to set you off.
Yeah.
But the pills will help you mellow out. Especially if you're given the right diagnosis, if you're giving the right type of medication and the right dose, you are 100% good to go if you keep taking that medication. You stop for you miss one tiny little dose, you're probably fucked. Because then, like, there is no trigger. It just happens. But with IED, it's a trigger. Then once you hit that trigger and you feel those chemicals being produced, that's when it's like, okay, this is happening. But again, medication can help dial back some of that chemical imbalance.
Yeah.
If given the right dose and the right type of medication. But there's also, wait, what if we don't want to have to take medication? Well, there's natural ways of getting help too. And your doctor should know a non-invasive, non-chemical or false chemical way, like a natural substantial way, like a type of tea that should relax you.
And even then, sometimes that doesn't help when you need medication. We're
Yeah.
not saying anything bad about meds.
Well, I'm also trying to speak on the behalf of people that maybe they're already taking too many meds at this moment, and maybe the pill that may help them, or the only pill that or medication that may end up being able to help them, would end up conflicting with the only medication that can do this other task.
Yeah.
And the two cannot be taken together. I mean, it's a possibility that things like that happen.
Yeah.
Like, certain things work better than others. But your doctor should have the knowledge to be able to help you further than your friends or your family or whatever. Like, if you feel like this is strange or out of place, or I don't like feeling frustrated type of mood, then, you know, go to the doctors, be like, hey, this is feeling strange, I don't know why I feel this way, and just open the conversation.
Yeah. And doctors are there to help you. 9 times out of 10, they're able to help you.
They go to school for it. They know a hell of a lot more than either you or me.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Because it's their job to know.
Mm-hmm.
And if the doctor's just like, here's a pill, hopefully this works, or here's this pill, hopefully this works, and they're not like guaranteed like, oh, this will definitely be what'll help smooth things out, or they don't listen to what you have to say, or they don't take what you want into consideration in how they treat you, then maybe that's not the right type of doctor to go to.
Yeah.
But, you know, a doctor should be able to be like, even your family physician should be like, okay, well, I'm hearing you out. You're saying that you don't like this color, and it takes you this amount of time to calm down after seeing it. Or you don't like to be touched, and the moment you get touched, you deck somebody without thinking about it. Well, obviously that's not normal to think, because like, if someone pokes you, it's not always in bad faith.
Yeah.
So your normal reaction isn't to just deck this guy, it's just to be like, hey, I don't like that, please don't do that.
Exactly.
Rather than not really having the senses to be like, okay, well, I don't like it, so I'm just going to dex this person. Because it'll make my point across a lot faster.
Yeah, that's not really the way to go about something.
No. It's the chemical imbalance talking, and you just accepting it. And this is probably running pretty long. Yeah, it's about an hour and 25 minutes.
Yeah, I think we might have to cut it there just because of the length.
But with that being said, for this topic, if you stayed with this video this long, comment down below.
Yeah.
If you feel okay enough to, if you happen to be diagnosed with a mental disorder, behavioral problem, or any of the following that we talked about, you don't have to mention what you were diagnosed with, just how old were you when you were diagnosed with it?
Yeah.
And how does the treatment that you're using make you feel?
Yeah. Just let us know in the comments.
If that makes sense, go ahead and, type it on your keyboard. Let us know if this helps you out at all, gets you off your ass, and gets you to speak to your family practitioner, or makes you open up more to your family as a child or as a young adult or whatever, and it makes you open up more about what's bothering you, then, we would love to hear about how these conversations help you.
Yeah. Because we love hearing from you guys as far as like the topics and everything go. So.
Yeah, and if what we have to say opens your eyes and gets you to get the help that you need, rather than just taking the whole opposite turn, then we want to be able to be like, okay, well, we made a difference.
Yeah.
Type of situation, because that's the whole point of us doing these topics. It's about being able to engage with the audience and the viewers, and without being too mushy. Comment down below, subscribe. We always do different topics, and it is getting harder as the topics go by to come up with more individual topics and newer topics, especially when there are some subjects you just don't want to touch.
Yeah.
Or you think it's been too overdone. Help us out and leave us a comment down below on any of our videos.
Yes.
About any topic or any video game play. Because that's always helpful to us. And if we take your suggestions, we'll give you a shout out. We'll give you the credit that you deserve. And with that being said, as always, be nice to each other. And if that big old meanie says he doesn't like you, just, I don't know where I'm going with that. Anyways.
We'll see you guys later.
Toodles! Now, where's the off button? That's not the off button. It's I shut it off! Vegeta!
Sit stop!